Okay, we're back at it with another lesson in the tutorial series. We're continuing with our little mini series on the placeable system, animal placeables. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I did as a follow-up to the previous two lessons. Excuse me. As a follow-up to the previous two lessons, what I did kind of made my own animal placeable, keeping the ordering of these nodes the same, how I edited the XML, what to do with the default items XML, and the mod desk, how everything kind of meshes together in terms of map making, okay? Because there's some extra steps we need to do when doing placeables that are baked into the map, okay? So let's get started. I'm going to show you what I did here. I'm going to show you actually two things. First of all, let's go, I'll hop over to Lincoln Creek really quick. Gonna collapse all those. Okay, what I want you to do when you're working on your placeables is create a transform group that is zeroed out. Everything's 0 and everything is at scale 1. Okay, I shouldn't have to explain that by now. Just zero it out. Okay, you're going to create an onCreate group, or onCreate user attribute. Okay, so it's going to be placeholders dot onCreate. All right, I don't know if I need to show. I probably need to show. So if you guys skip around lessons, some of you skip lessons and everything, and I need to do this for you. Okay, so it's going to be a script callback, and then placeholders. Make sure all the capital letters are correct. So capital P placeholders dot onCreate. That's how you spell it. You're going to make that a script callback. You're going to add that. Okay. What? And then, oh, wait. We need one extra step here. We need, oh, you know what? I'm an idiot. This is not supposed to be what this is. This is an onCreate, right? Sure, yeah, onCreate. Okay. All right. Apologies for that. onCreate, script callback, then write placeholders.onCreate. There we go. This is basically, nobody does this. I don't know why people don't do this. I found this out like a couple months ago and I was like, what? So you should do this. Place this placeholder user attribute. You can put anything that's going to be your placeable, anything that's going to be a placeable in the game and have its own function and everything, and it's going to be called forth by the item XML. This basically what it'll do is you can have this in the map like this. Okay? But now that this bin, let's say, is in here, if you had this outside of it, it would show up in game like this. Okay? And then the one that's coded through the items XML, so let's say that there's this, and then there's a separate one in its own i3D that's being that shows up in game exactly where this is, except that one is functioning and proper and doesn't show this this pipe effect, this discharge effect and everything. They're going to be overlapping, okay, when they show up, right? But now that we've put this, and you'll see what I mean when you get into this, we put this into this placeholder.onCreate group. What this user attribute does is make it invisible, make it non-existent when we get into game. And so the one that actually is functioning and everything has an XML tied to it, is called forth by the items XML. That's the one that's going to be showing up here, not this one. This one you can tell is not the right one because it's got this discharge effect and everything. And if that shows up in game, it shouldn't be showing up. It should be invisible because the XML is going to make it invisible. Okay, so that's what we want to do first and foremost. Okay. Now you can do that with the animals as well. You can separate them in different ones if you want, like a bin with the same placeholder at whatever. It doesn't matter. You can name it whatever you want. Have it different, different groups for different things. I just have them all in one big group. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I did on Marksville for my animal placeable. I have the load trigger right here. I moved all these triggers around. I have my feed bunk here. I put a new feed plane. Feel free to go into, if you want to use this, feel free to go into here. Go into placeables in my Marksville map. You can go to any one of my maps and take whatever you want. I don't care. You would find this not baked into the map. You would find it in placeables, and you'd open up cows, and then I have a bunch of them in here. You could take, I don't even know how many Marksville had, like 11 placeable cow pens, something like that. And do it from there. I have I replaced the water trough here. It's got its own water plane in there, right there. There is, I have my own slurry pit here. I actually have a better one now I should be using, but have not implemented that one yet. This is where the manure is. You can see I put a transform group here. You could just rename this manure if you wanted. And it has its own area here. I don't know if it intersects with the plane or not. Yeah, I kind of put it, I put it right here. You don't really want your nav mesh intersecting with that manure plane because the cows are going to be crawling all over the manure, and it's going to, I don't know if that affects performance or whatever. It just looks weird. Not that it's actually weird in real life. They do stand on those manure piles. Straw trigger. I don't think I have. I think I have a couple straw planes. You can manipulate these straw planes however you want, by the way, as long as they're like not floating when you get into game and you got your min Y, max Y correct. You can stretch these out if you want or make them bigger, thicker, whatever you want. As long as they're not floating, you want to make sure they're not floating. Okay. And again, you want them to stick to the ground. You're going to click on this and you're going to click, Control B to make sure it's as close as you can get it here. This ground is pretty uneven, so it's actually looks better over here. Okay. So writable delivery area. I zeroed out all of these. Even though you can delete the lines in the XML, I zeroed them all out. The same goes for clear area, level, ramp, foliage, all is zeroed out. See here, nav mesh. So let's go into visuals. Okay, let's go in here. I got my nav mesh plane here. These are individual planes. You can take them from you can take this from the base game if you want. You can delete all these planes except one. You can delete all these and just have that one if you really want. And then you would just duplicate that over and over and over again. I think the shape, does have a shape ID at all? Nav mesh build mask FF, there you go. Just copy and paste, just duplicate, that's how I do it. And I kind of made a little course for the animals to walk around and everything. Sometimes they'll intersect with the walls if you're too close. The nav mesh will always shrink it lower depending on the radius that you set when we build the nav mesh. I'll show you here in a second what I do to build the nav mesh. So I think, is that everything? That's everything. Okay, so we have that there. Okay, and in Marksville, I didn't put this in one of those placeholder.onCreate groups, but you should put that in there. You want these coordinates. Okay, you're gonna want those. All right, but right now we're just going to export. This is hypothetical because I'm actually not going to do this. But you would export file selection, and then you would export whatever folder you want. Try to make it organized, as best you can. I have cows, placeables. You can see my file structure here. Placeables, cows, and then I have them in here. Okay, not all of them, but most of them in here. And then I named this farm 1, cow 2. I think I ended up naming it. Okay, and then I exported that. Okay. In there, and I'm keeping this here. Okay, so now let's actually go into the file. See if I can find that file. Marksville. Let's go in here. Placeables. Let's just pretend I exported it. Okay. Okay. Pretend I exported that file into here. Now it's gonna come in when you load it up. It's gonna be at 132.61 negative 107. Okay, that's where it's gonna be located. What we want is to go ahead and zero that out. Okay, so now it's not that, it's that. So you're gonna go ahead and zero it out. Okay, so that it's at the center of this whatever space, because we're going to be telling the items XML where this is located. We don't need it to be there. I mean, you could go into the items XML and you could just have everything at 0, 0, 0, and then keep it at these coordinates if you want. There's two ways of doing that. I don't know. I like to have it at the items XML. I don't know why I do it that way. You could just export to here, not zero it out, and then go to your items XML when we pull that up here in a second, and then just have the coordinates at 0, 0, 0. Doesn't really matter. I mean, it does, but like just keep in mind what you're doing. Okay. So let's pretend that I don't have a nav mesh. Okay. All right, so I'm going to create a nav mesh. That was at 0.8, by the way. Okay, so actually we don't need to delete it. I mean, you could keep it up here, but let's say, I don't know. Like, you know what? I'm gonna delete it. I'll show you two ways. You could just let's just delete it. Just keep in mind that it's below milk tank. Okay, so I'm gonna go to create nav mesh. Oh wait, sorry, nav mesh. Okay, these are the settings I have. Probably it's gonna be like this for you. I believe for cows it's 0.3 radius, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've raised this radius up and it's worked just fine before, if it's not covering all of those those planes that we place down. Sometimes it'll cut off and it won't follow exactly what I did, so I'll raise the radius. Shape build mask, FF, culling info layer 1. I think these culling info layers, if I'm not mistaken, I need more coffee right now. 1 is for cows, 2 pigs, 3 chickens, 4 horses? If I'm not mistaken. Oh wait. Or is that shape build? Ooh, I need to look this up. I always forget which one because I hardly ever do any other animals. I hardly do pigs, but that actually might be the shape build mask. I can't remember if it's the culling info layer or if it's. Actually, I'm almost certain it's this. Okay, for different animals. Okay, I think Shy Wizard has a tutorial online for this. You maybe go check that out. But I almost exclusively do cows, so this is just always works for me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create. And did I exit out by accident? Okay, so it worked. Okay, so it created. Sometimes it'll crash, so you want to save this. But yeah, sometimes it'll crash. Just another thing with with Giants Editor. Okay, so this needs to be in this group. Okay, needs to be in this group. Okay, so we're gonna Control X, Control V. All right, then I'm gonna move that up. I'm just gonna right-click move instead of moving it with my mouse scroll button. Okay, so now it's at. Okay, click off of that. Click at. Okay, now it's at 0.8. That's where it is in the XML. All right, you want it here at this index path. As you move it up and down, it's going to change numbers. So if I move this down, it's going to be at 0.9 instead of 8. Okay, that's where you want it. Keep everything in order. Don't mess with it. All right. So that's how you create a nav mesh plane. You can also do this, and you can do create, and then nav mesh, and you can just recreate. While you have this highlighted, you can just click recreate if you want to go back and keep this in the same spot. While you want to go back and delete one of these nav mesh planes, you can do that as well. That's preferable. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Okay, I don't know why I saved that. Okay, so another thing I wanted to show you quick before we get into the XML, you have these planes, but these planes, they're flat to the ground, right? And that doesn't work well when you're doing terrain like this, where it's on a hillside, right? Doesn't really work out the best. So let's go to Lincoln Creek. What I did, which farm did I want to show? This one. So what I did with this is, instead of using planes, we can add an info layer. So you can create a nav mesh with an info layer. So what I did is I took one of the info layers in Lincoln Creek. Let me pull it up here for you, actually, just so you know what I'm talking about here. Placeables. No, not placeables. It's in maps. It's in map. Okay, so our info layers that we have worked with a ton of times for fruit density and the tree mask and everything. It does it for seasons as well. I just copied tip call info layer and pasted and renamed it to nav mesh. And then I went into the map file just like we did with every other. Let's see how long this takes. Just like we did with every other info layer, created it in info layer. Okay. And except this one's for nav mesh. This one's going to nav mesh. So you do that for the same way we did fruit density, the same way we did field dimensions. You should know that. That should be second nature by now. But I bet it's in here. Yeah. So we have a file path here, and we have this, and it's basically number of channels 1, just one number channel. Okay. And I think I copied tip call here and pasted it and renamed it and everything. Okay. So I went through and I painted, let's see here. I painted this nav mesh, okay, with the tool. And then in the map I created, well, what you can do is you can click on your placeable. Is this even in here? Oh, it is. You can click here on nav mesh and you can just click recreate nav mesh. So, you could go here and click recreate. I hope this doesn't crash the map. It might. It might crash. When you do it through the map, it's a little bit more touchy. But what you do is save it before doing this. You would click recreate nav mesh and it'll create this nav mesh based off of that info layer. You could also just create nav mesh without clicking recreate and it would show up outside the map. You'd need to copy paste it or cut paste it into like we did over here in the actual placeable. Cut paste it into the placeable structure, the animal structure. This is in the way, I can't show you. Okay. Then you cut and paste it into this group here. And then you would have to move it around, that transform group, move it around until it fits here. Okay, it did crash. Thank you. Love you, Giants Editor. That's how you would make nav meshes in 17. And so I find that really helpful for hillsides. Okay. Let's get into the XML now. Okay. This is pointing to that Marksville one right here. So it's pointing to. And let's see, do I have, you can see mine is significantly different. I still have these in here. They don't really need to be in here. I think on Lincoln Creek I ended up deleting these. Okay, and it's the same across the board. Everything here is the same. Okay, it's just a different file path. This is the biggest thing that, like, if you don't see it showing up in game, if you don't see your placeable showing up in game, this is one of the number one culprits, is that and I swear you're gonna come back to me and be like, no, I did it right. I'm gonna tell you to go back and look at this line. Because I can't tell you how many times I've like, why isn't my placeable showing up in game? And it's like, oh, I spelled something right. I didn't get a capital letter, or I didn't get the file path right, or whatever. It has to be here. Okay? It has to be correct here. Okay? Everything. I have a bought with farmland line that I put in here. Okay, so the animal placeable will only show up when you buy that farmland that it's tied to. And I'll show you the items XML here in a second and show you how that operates. Can be sold, false. Show and store, false. Okay. Everything else doesn't really matter. Okay, items XML. Now we want to point to that file. We want to point to that XML. So the XML is pointing to the i3D. Now we want the items XML to point to the items XML to point to this XML right here. Farm 1, cow 2. Okay, so I got that highlighted right here. We have the file path and everything. So for placeables, we're going to get into this a little further with other things. So like silo placeables, you can see class name, item class name is different from item class name, animal husbandry. Okay. But the rest follows suit. The rest is the same. Okay. So like class name is going to be different, and it's going to be different for, map bound IDs for like sell points and buy points. It's going to be different. Okay. But class name. Animal husbandry. That's very important. If you're doing something different, like Hoff Bergman has different class names and a script that adds class names. Okay, and those need to be correct. But like that's very advanced stuff. You don't need to know that now. All you need to know, this is a class name, animal husbandry. File name. You're gonna want to do $ map directory, $ placeables, cows. Farm1 cow2.xml is the one. So this is the file path. Okay. If you are not baking it into the map and you are doing a placeable that is a placeable in and of itself, like a harvestor silo, let's say, but you still want it in your map, you would do mod directory, no slash, fs19 _ harvestor2, and then the XML file name in there. Okay, so it's different. This is in your mod folder. This is in the actual map file. Okay, most of what I do is in the map directory. Okay, the position. These are the coordinates. The coordinates are right here of that placeable. Rotation. Farm ID. So I have default farm property false. Farm ID 1. This is my starting farm. 1 is just what I call the starting farm. Makes sense. And so starting farm is right here. That's the farmland that this is on. Okay. You might have it have the farmland painted 2, but if this says 1, regardless if you buy that farmland, as long as this is 1, you're not going to get the placeable. It's not going to function. I can't tell you how many people come to me but like, I can't get my cows operating. Why can't I run the cows on this farm or so? And I'll be like, did you buy the property? They're like, oh no, you have to. That's why we put bought with property. We put that line in there. Okay. If you don't want that and you just want it, like you can use it whenever you want without owning the property, then don't put that bought with property line in there. Okay. So we're going to get to more into this later, but that's all you need to know for this specific line. Okay. Mod desk. You want to go into the mod desk. Remember, this is where you put your name and everything, and the title and everything. I don't know if we covered this before. It's where the extra source files are. But the mod desk, you want to this is where you lay out the items. Everything that's laid out in the items XML, you want to lay out here as well. So under store items, we're going to put this line right here, which is the file path, placeables, cows, farm1, cow2, .xml. This has to be right as well. If you do not do this, you're going to go in game, you're going to buy the animals, whatever, buy the farmland, and the animals show up and everything, and your cows show up, and then you're going to save game, exit, and then you're going to try to come back in, and the cows will no longer work. They will no longer function properly. And that is because you didn't put this line in here for that placeable. The whole game gets screwed up if you don't do that for a placeable. I don't know. That's hugely important. Your game will like crash. It'll stuff won't function in the game. Just make sure you have this line in there. Okay, for whatever placeable you're running. If it's a buy point, you're gonna have that line in here showing where the XML is. You have to have that, or else it's not going to work. And for the longest time, I didn't know that. When I first did Alcator, I didn't have these lines in here. Didn't know that's what was causing my issues. I would save the game, come back in, and the cows were no longer functional. They wouldn't even show up. I couldn't buy cows, whatever. It's because I didn't have these store item lines in there. You have to have them. Okay? And that's it. That's all you need to know. That's how you create. That's how it works. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask the Discord. This one's the toughest one because there's so many different working parts. But at the, just take it slow. Make sure you're getting all of those XML file lines correct, both in the mod desk, in the items XML, and in the actual placeable XML. All of those lines have to be correct. Okay. And once you do one, it's really easy because you're just changing, the file path a little bit, just changing the name of the i3D and changing the name of the XML. So you can do multiple animal placeables in one day, as long as you're, keeping track of those file paths. Okay. That concludes the custom animal placeables section. We're going to move on to other placeables now. We're going to do sell points, buy points, maybe work with harvest store silos, and maybe work with some bins and stuff like that. Okay. I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.